All right, so welcome everybody. We'd like you to say hello in the chat. Please let us know where you're tuning in from. We want everybody to get settled here. I need to go find a couple of things going on here. So we are on a new platform. We appreciate you joining us here. And I'm going to just find some more people saying hello. We do have a little bit of a delay. Christian and I, real time for us, it's about 30 seconds later for you guys. So we are delighted to have you here. Please continue saying hello. Who do we got here? Let's read through some of these guys in the chat, Christian, while I find our other admins and upgrade.
We got friends in Bath, UK. We have a good friend in Germany. Hello, Martin. Wie geht's dir? Wie geht es Ihnen? I should see that proper. Fort Collins, Colorado. Costa Rica. Oh, man, I want to go to Costa Rica. We got Marco from Morristown, NJ. Victor from Berlin. Oh, man, we got everybody. Quebec, Canada. Oh, I haven't been there forever.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, there's so many. So that looks like Sanibel Island, Florida. Evans City, Pennsylvania. We got some Phoenix, Arizona. We got family out there. We got the Netherlanders. Oh man, we got everybody. Love it. Thank you guys for joining us.
My goodness, thank you all for being here. We've got Martin in here a little bit. So, Martin, if you happen to see Brenda pop in, please help by making her an admin. So again, we hope that you like that. We chose a new platform because there are some features that we really wanted to use that we think are going to make this great. So, this is the Macro Challenge. This is our second episode of the Macro Challenge, and by your suggestions last time, you chose the subject, which was a coin. The method that we're using is we're using a macro bellows to photograph a coin, and that was the premise of the whole thing. Again, Christian is out in California. I'm here in New York. We worked on the problem separately with separate pieces of gear and with our own vision in mind, and we attacked it separately. And I think that we had some really interesting things that not only happened, delightful things that happened, but we also learned some stuff along the way.
Yep, separate learning curves.
Separate learning curve, for sure. And where I thought, like it was something that I knew a lot about. I now know that there's always more to know. And I think I knew that before, but just in case, I want to reiterate to everybody here, there's always something more to learn. Wow.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to go through a bunch of images shortly, but I just want to get a little housekeeping out of the way. This is being recorded. So if you have questions, don't worry about it. Pay attention to us. Use the chat to ask us questions anytime. You will be able to watch the replay. You feel free to take notes, but be present, because the best time to be at a webinar is when there's a live Q&A. Yeah. So ask us questions. We're here to respond. And there's also many of our previous webinars available here where we set it up. So once you're done, feel free to go browse the previous ones and check those out too. So Christian, how was this challenge for you, man? Was it fun?
It was fun, but the challenge held true. That part of the title, it was something I had not really attempted before with the bellows, and I found that there's math involved. Actually, you brought that up. I think I was. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, this is a little more scientific than I anticipated. In my mind, I have these ideas of what the end result image is going to look like, and I think after this challenge, I have a much better opportunity to get some of those ideas out and recorded. But during this time frame, I was running up a few stumbles here and there, and I appreciate all your help, by the way, and our friends over at Novoflex. They kind of walked me through, took me off the macro ledge there a little bit, and kind of got me on the straight and narrow. But you are absolutely right. The challenge was there, and the learning part was there, and I think that's in the end the most fun. So First, I started a little apprehensive because I wasn't getting the shots I wanted, and it ended up feeling pretty good about the results.
I feel the same way.
Did you?
I approach photography with gusto no matter what. I mean, I feel pretty confident about just the topic of photography,
Yeah.
but this put me in an area of uncertainty that I hadn't been in before, where I really needed to perform a specific task. And I had a set of expectations that were up here. You know, like I do photography this way, therefore I expect this of myself. I impose them on myself. And I said, wow, I really want them to look a certain way. And like, I'm going to give everybody like a little bit of a preview of what we're talking about. But
Nice.
you know, we had a lot of great things that we went through, and we're going to talk through all of this for you guys. But I just wanted to give you a quick preview of, you know, the deliciousness that's coming up and the depth of discussion that we're going to have about this. It's a fun ride. So
Yeah.
So what did we learn? I knew that I just needed to. This is one of my favorite kinds of photography. Slow down.
Yes.
You know, be a little bit more meticulous about how I approach these things. And I think we should. I don't know. It's okay. The most important thing that I want to start with, and this is funny because I give the same kind of sermon on a night photography workshop, which is without a good base, everything is going to be harder. So
yes,
we talked about just a bellows shooting a coin. So add a camera and a lens and a bellows and take a picture of a coin. But if you don't have a really good base underneath it, you're going to be frustrated.
Yes, absolutely. Start with a sturdy foundation, work your way up from there, right?
Yeah. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
I'm showing this picture first because I wanted to demonstrate just how thin the depth of field is that we're working with here. So this is maybe a medium magnification, you know, like medium to large, and there is very little. There's just his nose and part of his eye. And this is George Washington. This is a quarter in focus. And if you imagine you take that depth and multiply it times the number of times you need to travel across this coin, that's the number of pictures you need to take and then combine them in post-processing, called focus stacking, to make a completed image. So that's what we were up against, right? And I started out in a vertical orientation because I was thinking very linearly, in a linear fashion. Like, I'm going to take a picture of a coin. The coin's going to be flat. So one of the things I started out with was shooting vertically, and you have to lock down the focusing rail every single time. You move it a little bit and lock it down, and it was okay. You know, like you have a shallower depth of field because everything is parallel to the image sensor. So I had fun with lighting. I really love lighting, and defining the edges by putting the lights on opposite edges to really bring out the dimensionality of the coin, because coins are not flat.
Especially not at that magnification.
Right. So these are all pictures shot with my macro lens, a Laowa 100 millimeter f2 lens, put on the bellows on my Nikon Z6. So I would just adjust the focus on the lens first, and then I adjust the bellows to increase the magnification. And then after that, you use the focusing rail to adjust your focus steps. So these are all stacked images, and the quantity of images really depended on what I was working through. And you'll see that I didn't really nail all of the focus steps on this one. There's a couple of stripes of not in focus here. So I was really just warming up, right? And the next one I got better, you know. But even this, you see, it's pretty deep. Part of this is lighting, but there's actual relief on a coin. So you need to use enough photographs to make sure that you step through those. And then at maximum magnification, where my lens is set to 2:1 and my bellows have maximum draw, this is what I had. And that's a very small portion of a fairly large coin. So, and look at all the years of wear on that.
Yeah, I really like that.
There we go. There's maximum. And this one, I did not stop down enough, and I didn't shoot enough steps. So there's a couple of stripes of softness on this. But again, learning your way forward through this. Once you shoot a stack, go process it and come back and try it again. Now, Christian, this is your image. Why don't you walk us through this?
Sure. So I chose a different coin. I chose a silver dollar, in 1889, I believe, silver dollar. I thought the extra size of the coin would give me a little more fun areas to travel about. And this is just two different light sources, one off to the side, one more or less front on, and that's how you get that little red edges on the side, which I thought was pretty cool looking. I was starting to notice a few things, and this one, I liked the concept. I liked the way it was going. Yeah, look at that. But it wasn't as sharp as I wanted. And that sent me down a path of, what's going on here? What am I doing wrong? This was a number of steps as well, though, as you can tell, with that kind of magnification. Had to do a lot of steps in my stack.
Do you remember how many?
On this one, no. I want to say it was around 20 something.
Okay. What about this one?
So this one is an extreme. I mean, I racked the bellows all the way out, and I used, I believe it was the 80 millimeter macro on the Fuji XT3, and that one, I really like the way it was starting to come out. But I was also looking in the corners afterwards, and I don't know if it was me. I don't know what the problem turned out to be. And we can discuss this in a little bit, but I was losing a lot at the edges, but the center seemed to be pretty sharp. But it was something that was like, this is going to be a puzzler if I'm really concerned about edge to edge. I mean, a lot of the true, not true, but the extreme close-up stuff I've seen would be of nature, something where the center is in focus and the outside could be blurry, and it just adds to the ambiance, if you will, right? And here we are with a very hard metal, flat field roughly, and anything that wasn't sharp was starting to be very pronounced and a little bit distracting.
Did you crop in on this image?
I did, just a little bit. Okay. Yeah, just because, not a whole lot.
So your center is probably where trust is then.
Actually, it's probably right about in the middle, right below. I didn't crop in that much. I mean, just a tiny little bit. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And this.
Yep. Now here I am. This is becoming more of stack testing and trying to alleviate some of my not optimal sharpness woes. And I'll be honest, I spent a good portion of my time on this challenge trying to work my way through the issues. You can see in the left side over by that D, it's starting to fall off. My sharpness was just kind of getting smushy there. And I was, and
you tried a number of apertures and a number of steps,
I did. In fact, for a while there, and you'll see that a little further on, I taped a piece of grid paper up to the wall, and I tried different lenses, and I tried different apertures, and I tried all sorts of things. So you see another motion here. This is a similar side light that I had before, and now it's really pronounced. I think this might have been the Laowa lens I put on there, not the Fuji 80.
Right. Gotcha. And this one was without the bellows, right?
Yes. So then I want to make sure that my lens wasn't messed up, because I have traveled a little bit, and one of them just came in the mail, and you never know, right? Who knows what's going on? And so I shot this without the bellows to see if I had the same issue, and maybe in the corners just a tiny touch, but not nearly as pronounced as I had with the bellows.
Right.
So then I'm wondering, what do I not know about bellows that's going to make me, cause a little myopia theater present? So that took me down a rabbit hole of, how, the extreme levels of magnification. And here is the bellows are racked all the way out. This is I wanted that super close, super tight kind of thing, but I just was not nailing the focus.
Right.
This one here, I really like the kind of surreal nature of that, and I will try to I will try to reshoot that again sometime, because I like the concept of where I was going with this. But again, just a little dreamy, a little dreamier than I had anticipated.
Gotcha. So here's a little BTS of you just working through, trying to understand the sitch, right?
That's exactly right. And I went through all the apertures, and I went through, it's close focus, and here's where the camera was focusing. You can see, and try to really take it away from the run and gun. Throw it on throw the
I
coin up
feel
in
like
there.
this should
Take a
be in
shot.
focus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can see right there on the left hand side there that it was. That's what the Laowa, you can tell. It can read the f-stop. It was really pronounced on this sharpness drop off there.
Yep.
So
Yep. So we're talking about. Let's be specific. You're using which camera system?
So at the beginning there, I started with the Fuji X-T3, and so that is APS-C size sensor for those of you who don't know that. And I started originally with the Fuji 80 millimeter macro at 2.8, and I had a couple other lenses I tested as well. And some would not resolve at all, by the way, when I put them on the bellows. For instance, the kit lens 18-55 that I thought came out really well with the fork images. When it was reversed, put it on the bellows, could not get it to focus whatsoever. The 80 millimeter I could, and then I purchased the Laowa 65. It's a 2-to-1, not a 1-to-1, so we had an increased amount of magnification with that to begin with. And those two were the primary lenses I was attempting and testing for about half of this time frame. I challenged, of the challenge, I should say. But then I had to shift gears later on.
Yeah. So we'll check back in on that one. So while you were grinding on trying to figure out,
I was grinding.
Is it my expectations are wrong, or is it the gear that's like? So we'll come back to that. We're gonna leave you guys hanging, right?
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, with the only setup that I have, I was shooting with the Z6 and the Laowa 100 millimeter, which I found to be a dependable thing that matches my expectations. I had a dream of shooting the coin in such a way that the profile became surreally pronounced. So I was shooting at this really oblique angle, and then I found out that much depth requires a lot of travel on the focus rail.
How many shots in that stack?
This one was about 70.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite nail the focus, the processing in Helicon, nor did I spend time in Photoshop trying to fix that. That's irrelevant to me right now. I know it's fixable. Like right now, I was just sort of working on an idea, right? So here's a background shot so you guys can see what I was working on. And I want to point out two things. One, I want to reiterate that having a good base is important. I'm using the TrioPod Pro 75, and I just unscrewed the big legs and put the tabletop legs on there. And I have the classic ball 3. And then I have a small quick release on that. And then I have the focusing rail and then the bellows. So all the way up from the bottom up, I made sure that I have a really strong, stable platform. And I went from vertical to horizontal. So now I don't need to worry about when I unlock the friction control on the focus rail. I can just move the focus rail a tiny bit and let gravity hold it in place, like the natural friction that's built into it by Novoflex. So when it's pointing downwards, there's a lot of weight on it, so anyway, I was shooting level, and I was just setting it up in such a way. And the other thing I wanted to point out is that you'll see behind it, there's a 27-inch screen, and below it, there's my Ninja V. I put the Ninja V on so that I can record what it looks like to show you guys. I have a video I'm going to put out soon to show you guys what it looks like to do this process. And I could show you through the camera now, but I'm gonna hold off on that. But I use these as focus aids because as good as my eyes are, I have really expensive glasses. It's even easier to look on a display. And with focus peaking, that helps even more, right? You see, the focus peaking is turned on there. And it's pushed out to the display behind too. So having a 27-inch monitor, your monitor that your computer's plugged into could also be something you can use as a focus aid. You just need an HDMI cable out from your camera to that, and you can see to focus. You don't need to have a fancy in-between monitor like I have. So I was just working my way forward, trying to find things that might be fun to shoot, and like angles to hold all of these things up. And I found that like making a really small photograph that's in sharp gets really complicated, especially when it comes down to lighting. And that's another topic altogether that we need to get into.
Yep.
But for right now, suffice to say, I had a lot of enjoyment just working on the lighting. Just showing a close-up here from the side to show you guys. Camera has an adapter on it. We've talked about this in many other presentations. The camera has this adapter called the retro adapter that adapts my Z. So it's like the lens is just pushed further away and the bellows is in between. And that's the Castel Mini 2 rail that's below it. Yeah, so I was shooting through and I finally said, all right, I think I found that specialness. I think I found that angle that makes the coin look not like a coin. And you can see my focus aid behind there. It's up on the screen. That's the finished stack that's on the screen. Yes, I staged this picture. Yes, it's an HDR. I know, but I just wanted you guys to see what it looked like to me to be doing it in scene. But this is the picture.
That's cool.
And this was 90 images from front to back and lit crazy. And everybody I've shown this image to so far, the most consistent thing they've said is that it looks like a Ferris wheel.
Yep.
And that's the kind of like surreal approach that I wanted to take when shooting a coin, is not to just be representational, but to do it in such detail that it creates curiosity. Yeah. And I feel like I really succeeded. This is the first time I've done a deep stack that I'm really absolutely proud of.
Yeah, that one really came out nice. You should be proud of that one, Matt.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from you guys, like in the chat. I know Christian and I have been bantering on for a little bit now. Tell us, do you feel like you've done a deep coin stack that you really love? If you have a link you want to share, throw it in the chat. We'd love to see it. And we have other questions too. I'd really like to know, I asked another question on the way in, but I'm going to put up another poll. I want to know what kind of macro photography interests you the most. I'm really curious. I want to know more about you guys. So yeah, so that was that. And just giving a little behind the scenes view here. Like, I decided after that shot, I couldn't rest on my laurels. I needed to do a little bit more. So I wanted to shoot an Argentine peso that I had from going down to visit my wife's family. And I had to tape it down and I had to put it on top of, I was trying to get as level as possible. So it's on top of my card reader. It's taped to an HDMI adapter. You know, we do all of these hack things, right? Just to make these images that look like they weren't hacked. And then I started to have a little bit of fun with it. And then I said, all right, I want to get the whole coin in. And I did. And I recorded a cool video about this image sequence that I'm going to share with you guys. But I wanted to have a colored shadow casting forward. And I wanted to have the whole coin in focus, but not the rest of the wood it was resting on. And then go in for some deeper angles, which required deeper image stacks. This one was, I think, 50 images. This one was about 35. And this one actually only took about 40 images to do the whole stack. I'd have to go back and look at it. This one might have been 60.
Nice.
But there was some gunk on the coin, so I scratched it off, and you could see the scratches that I made on the stupid coin. Like, there was some schmutz on there, you know.
Yeah, so, right. Gotta get rid of that.
Yeah. So
it just adds to the history, to the story of that coin traveling forever.
It does. It does. And forever, those pesos are going to have my mark on them. So it's a game of moving very, very small increments and enjoying the process of going slow and taking as many pictures as it takes. And you'll see that here, for those images, this one, I'm somewhere between 1:1 and 2:1 on the lens, plus bellows extension. Wow. So I'm probably above 3:1 on my magnification ratio there. Yeah, and that was I shoot an overabundance of background pictures, but I'd like you guys to be able to see, you know, what the setups were like and how crazy I am about what I do. And I'll just point out one thing. There's scales on top of the focusing rail and on the bellows. And I put this picture in here so you guys can see it. You can obtain repeatable results and consistent results by referring to these scales as you work through your process. And I think that's an important one to keep in mind there. And now back to you, Christian.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, those are great, Matt. So I was having not as much fun as I wanted, looking at some of the corners of my images. And I didn't know, even though you and I and Martin helped me out and we really looked through a lot of what ifs, but I didn't feel like I was succeeding the way I wanted to. So I'm lucky to get to work with a company that knows a person that knows a person. And I was able to kind of quickly order up from our lending department for the marketing department, I should say, a different camera body, because I thought maybe there's something off with either myself or the camera body. I don't really know where the fault would lie. So I ordered up a full frame camera, and I got the older Sony A7 III and a couple of different macro lenses to help me on this journey, because I really wanted to get something that was working in the way my brain was seeing it ahead of time. And
Totally.
Yeah, so I think we may have just lost your screen share, by the way.
Oh, no, I wanted to see your face for a second.
Oh, yeah, my face is not worthwhile. Yeah, okay.
Okay, back to the
Nobody
screen.
wants to see this Vogue thing. Okay. So here's another Lady Liberty shot there with it. And I felt that this one, the stack was coming together. The number of images in that stack was a little greater than I had been using before. This one is only 16 images. So I had a decent f-stop f11, and I was using an entirely new lens. This would be the Voigtlander 110 millimeter lens with about 160th of a second on this one. And I think the edges started coming in a little bit sharper. I did my trademark side light with the colored light and tried to fill in those little details with the particular color. I love that. Although I tend to shoot it a lot, but yeah. I really like the way, yeah. I love the way you can see the history of these coins. I think Brenda had mentioned earlier she loves seeing when the edges when they're worn away. And here you can see, like you just put in a few extra scratches on that peso. Same idea. You see every little mark, every little wear. How many hands did this coin pass through since 1889, right?
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So then, now that I started getting my confidence back, now I started playing around, changing the light a little bit. It's the same coin, just different lighting in the front, that kind of copper tone, although it looks like a giant penny now, right? And sort of working similar like you. We're doing with the Ferris wheel, the fiery Ferris wheel shot, trying to get those edges there to look bigger than life. And that one's 42 images on that one. So that stack.
Beautiful.
Same Voigtlander 110 millimeter lens. The standoff range in that 110 millimeters quite a ways, which I thought might have helped me get almost a full coin, kind of like the one you had where it was just by itself. You can see the shadow. I had that image in my mind. Didn't really come to fruition until the end when I changed coins there. And yeah. You rack the focus in on this, and it's some magic in there.
Gotcha. Oh,
all right. There's a little relief there. That one's only a 14 image stack, and it's really not a lot of depth between in the bridge of her nose and the base of the coin. But again, all the scratches, all the wear and tear these things take.
Right.
Love it.
But it still took 14 images to make that.
Yeah, that one took 14.
Amazing.
And that's at I think that was f8. That's also with that Voigtlander.
Yep. Gorgeous. Cool, man. Well, I'm delighted that we had to work through some stuff, right?
Yes. Which is good, because you get that sense of relief and aha moment, which is what I think photography whenever an image comes together, whether you snap it off the cuff or, you know, you really set it up like something like this, when you finally get something like, okay, I want to present that shot, you know, makes one feel proud.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think it has something to say with you can ask as many questions as you want about whether something will work, but just trying it is going to be the best path to understanding it, because you might be expressing that you want a certain level of quality, and the other person listening to you might not hold the same beliefs about what quality means.
Yeah.
So my suggestion, my wholehearted suggestion, and being an educator of over 20 years, is try it before you buy it. Or if you purchase something, you know, make sure that there's an appropriate return policy if it doesn't turn out to be the right thing. So in this case, you had a system that you absolutely loved for lots of other purposes, but for whatever reasons, it did not match your expectations of what it should perform as. So you tried another thing. You tried a larger sensor and you tried different lenses. We don't know exactly what it was, but the important part was that, and the suggestions that we have from Martin is that it's most likely the lens. The lens, you just exceeded its capabilities, right?
Yeah, it's designed to focus on the APS-C size sensor, and you push it out another 100 millimeters or so. It's a little bit beyond where it was ready to resolve.
Yeah. So trying different combinations of tools will help you find different results. That's really the beginning and the end of it, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, like you and I were talking through this, we're talking about how challenging it was to shoot flat fields and to have to render this entire flat field, and how the things that we noticed was that most of these lenses are really great in the center, and as you get towards the edges, sometimes not so much. Like not every lens is designed as flat field. In fact, most lenses are not designed as flat field rendering lenses, right? Reproduction lenses. So a lot of macro lenses start to have that field flattened back out because of that, but still they're sweeter in the center. So on a lark, we said, you know, like, hey, why don't we shoot one thing, you know, that's not a coin, that's just center justified. So I did this. If anybody can guess what this is, let's get some ideas in the chat. Do you know what this object is? Let's see if anybody can figure it out. If you were watching the flip through of the images before, maybe you saw the reveal, but I'll set it up. This has, I think, 5 light sources in it because it's just this shiny object. And I had a lot of fun lighting this, but I had to make sure that I nailed the focus too. So, but I wanted something that was light and airy and you know, like had something around it. So I wanted to add some light behind it. So being a light painter, you know, I grabbed the black fiber optic thing from light painting brushes and pointed it towards the lens from the back. I just taped it together. So we've got some suggestions coming in now of what it could be.
Right.
A pellet from a pellet gun, a tripod foot spike. Amazing.
It does look like
this
a pellet.
is macro.
Yeah, that does look like a pellet. I could see that.
The object is over there. Actually, I could pick it up, but it's in focus right now. The reveal is that this is an audio adapter. So this is just the tip of the audio adapter, and this is where I saw a question come in, and I'm going to address this question right now. So somebody asked me what I was using for lighting. I use every tool that I have available. So there's those lights coming down over the top are a product called the Adapter Lux that you and I are really both curious about, and it has its pros and its cons, right?
Exactly.
And then I have PowerTube 2.6Cs, which are Nanlite battery powered 10-inch lights, and then I have my flashlight on the back side here, which you can only see the end of it there. There's my Coast HP7R flashlight with the light painting brushes adapter with the. So it's really complicated how I made the image, right? But in the end, I was really happy with it.
Yeah,
so
that's nice.
Yeah, but I broke the rules, right? You know, like I just wanted a little break from shooting flat things. So
I think it came out pretty well.
So much creativity to be had in macro, and it's fun as heck. So let's get back to coinage.
There you go. There's another. So that's my attempt to try to make the ridges on that coin look like steps on the Aztec temple or something. I really wanted that,
Cool.
this powerful, I don't know, ascension. And it started doing pretty good. I would like to attempt this one again. There's a few things I think could have been a little bit better, but that's
What would you change?
118 images.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah. You know what? I want to see more of the ridges, and I kind of want it. I think in my head, I want as if you're looking up, like the stairs are going. I mean, it kind of does.
Yeah.
You know what? But fractions of a centimeter, movement can change the entire outlook of that coin. I'm not unhappy with it, but this would be a fun experiment to come back to.
Yeah. This is a good time for me to mention that I'm going to publish something right now. If you look in the handouts part, you'll see a link that goes to a depth of field chart from Macro Bellows. We haven't gone into like the really technical side of this yet, because this is more of like, how do we get through the challenge and not a straight up educational instructional thing, but to help you figure out how much depth of field you'll have at a given aperture and magnification. There's a Google sheet that I just linked to. You can download that Google sheet as your own sheet, as an Excel sheet, as a PDF, and keep it off of your, off of the cloud if you want to. Feel free to enjoy that, click through to it, and keep it. We'll include this link in the after also. But there's a lot of math, right? There's just a lot of math involved.
There is. Lots to consider.
I guess this is a good time, if you don't mind me sharing, like this is a good time to just say, like, you could approach this in the technical way. You could approach this in the gunslinger way. Right. I found that a hybrid approach works well. And especially when you have focusing aids, right? Mm-hmm. You could use the back of your camera. You could put your eye up to the EVF to get a great magnification. But for most macro photos, the camera's in a weird place, and that'd be kind of hard. But I think that you'll start to understand more about what's possible and not possible. And I think we have to talk about diffraction for a second too, right? That was one of the things that we talked about a lot during the beginning of this is as you stop down more, the light hitting the edges of the diaphragm, the iris diaphragm, can scatter off of the edge and cause unsharpness.
Yep.
Diffraction.
Scraping those photons in ways they weren't intended to go.
Yeah, and we're really trying to tell light to do things that it doesn't want to do, and that's when you stop down too much, it gets less sharp and not more sharp. So we were sort of playing that edge, like, oh, should we shoot a 5.6 or f8? Mm-hmm. And after a lot of study and a lot of testing and even consulting with Martin, we ended up around f11 a lot of the time.
Yeah, 8
at least 11. I did.
Yep, that's how I end up mostly.
Is a sweet spot, and I would recommend never stopping down all the way on any lens, period, because there's just usually diffraction there, like f22. So it's 16 to be the top that I do, but I found myself at f11 most of the time, and that gave me a good amount of sharpness. And then I knew I just was really careful when I was turning the handle on the focusing ring to watch the plane of focus change, and using the zebras on the camera, the focus. Oh gosh, why is the word escaping me now? What's that phrase?
The focus peaking?
Yeah, focus peaking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you can red lines or whatever color you set it to on your camera. The focus peaking was very helpful in understanding just how far you could move at what magnification and how much you're stopping down. Yeah. And some of this you should test through, and some of this you should use math to figure out.
Right.
If it's very critical, you should consult the math. And we'll do future educational stuff that really digs into that. That's not the focus of this presentation. No. We're just sort of going through, hey, what did we learn and what did we achieve? So,
well, yeah, exactly. We did what I would do on my own when I get a new piece of gear. Set it up, go try it out. That's what I did. I set it up, I tried it out. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's mostly there, but what am I missing? Then I started looking into it. Then I started asking for help. Then I started making adjustments. But this is a very real world situation of, how I think a lot of people approach something new. And this has a lot of moving parts, right? We
Right.
have
Yeah.
everything, every little movement you do. And I mean, physically movement, or, the adjustment of the light, or adjustment of the subject, adjustment of the bellows, everything changes everything. So it's definitely a learning curve. And I really appreciate that. By the way, I took your advice. I did get an external monitor. I got a little 7-inch Blackmagic recordable monitor, and that definitely helped, because I had on the fork challenge, I was looking kind of oblique to the screen more often than not. I'm not in a studio. I'm in my grandfather's house, and this particular, you'll see a behind the scenes shot of my little cramped work environment, which, by the way, that's something else I learned or became more aware of. I knew it in the back of my head. Talking about being stable from the ground up, right? The first series with the Fuji, I had been taken in the guest bedroom where I've been sleeping for a while. And I had a table. It's a very small wood table. It was not very sturdy. It was a little shaky. And I was right next to the heater. And when the heater would kick on, I say right next, but I mean in the hallway next to my room, when the heater would kick on, it would send vibrations all the way through the floor. And I had my headphones on, I'm listening to music, I'm focus stacking, and I'm like, and it would just oblivious to the fact that I'm sitting on a giant belt sander, essentially, vibrating everything around. So I'm sure that didn't help my situation either. And that's too many variables to try to contend with, so pare it down, make it simple and more stable. Like you said, start from the ground up. So I took it downstairs, away from the heater. I put it on the kitchen counter with a nice smooth marble, surface. So that was fine. It's not shaking anything unless I slammed the door or something. But so all those removing of potential problems definitely helped the end result, I think.
I understand. I agree. I've put a lot of effort into working on a studio here in Catskill. And I got a big tool bench, and that's what my base is. So this is just like, I don't know, 500-pound tool bench that everything's sitting on. So it's an unusual situation, but I've been for over 4 or 5 years been building up to having this privilege. So so it's one thing. I just want to take a second. I saw in the chat that somebody mentioned they couldn't download the chart. I would just put up a PDF of it in the handouts. So if you want to go back and check that out. So doing stuff in real time here, folks. Yeah. So not only is what's under your camera important, what's under your camera is also important.
Yep. That's so true.
This is because everything, it's like if you're shooting extreme telephoto with wildlife, people get gimbals, people get all sorts of stabilization things, right? This is the same thing. It's just every movement is magnified.
Yeah.
Because you're magnified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Wow.
But as I eliminated some of those variables, things started tightening up a little bit. All right. Try to make that coin as flat to the lens as I could. This one was actually that's only 21 images in the stack. And that's with the 70 millimeter Sigma. I tried out F8. And there's my awesome behind the scenes. Now I want you to take a close look at this. Is one of the things I do really enjoy about this type of setup is you got to get creative. Things are, unless you have a giant room, or a true studio where you can have your lights in the permanent position, at all times. Maybe look at the clamp connected to the underneath of the counter there. I have a little background there, showing off. That's my iPad, because when I switched cameras, I no longer could use the cable release that I had. So thank goodness we had a Wi-Fi connection available for the Sony camera. So I was able to trigger it with my iPad. That monitor up on the stand there, that was the Blackmagic. And you notice that my shooting base, or my stage is sitting on top of my the ball head for the Novoflex, the Kugelkopf 50. and then my lights being held up by a platypod and a box of Alawa lens, you know. So I mean, it's just find what you can get and put it together.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. You know,
Not
the
an
BTS
optimal
is
space, by the
glorious,
way.
man.
There you go.
Glorious.
Not an optimal space, but in fact, I had to measure it out. By the way, look how perfect this sits. Okay, look at the height of that box. Allows me to put that little plexiglass tray right above the rail, so I could actually focus in and push the rails underneath the platform to get closer, instead of just moving the coin closer. Of course, why would you do that?
That's gorgeous. Oh, cool. We also get to point out one thing here, which is that you have the additional arm
Yes.
on your focusing rail, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It does make it easier to find that knob and to try to make, you know, very fine adjustments. It's also graduated on the outside. You can barely see it. I probably should have had a little closer shot.
No,
and
it looks
try
good.
to get that as equal as possible. And when I was running through Helicon, I could see where each individual slice, and pretty, you know, I was getting it pretty consistent. You know, then that there's no way I could have reached under there with my tips of my fingers and been able to maneuver it and that equal of step. So,
I was just showing everybody real quick that this is the fine adjustment handle that you can add on to the focusing rail. Oh, that's amazing. Good work, man.
Yeah. Worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And this is, there's that fun tack, man.
That is fun tack. So that's the way to keep the coin up. Washes off with some warm water. And I don't know if you can tell, it's on a little quick release plate. I had to make a pseudo quick release paper, whatever you want to call it, Arca, semi-Arca Swiss compatible wedge there, just so it would hold up and lock in place.
So clever. Ingenious.
DIY, baby. DIY. I love it.
Genius. Oh, it looks so good. Awesome.
Yeah. More of the same.
Yeah, you got to create your way around this, right?
Right.
Amazing. But look what you did.
There you go. So things are really starting to come together the other night. This is going back to the Voigtlander. That last behind the scenes shot was the Sigma. That's the Voigtlander again, the 110. I'm pretty pleased with that lens. That one's actually only about 9 images. With the F11, it covered a decent amount of depth.
Beautiful. Ooh, that coin took a dinger.
That did, right? Isn't that fun? I want to know the story behind that.
I want to know the story behind this lint.
Isn't that marvelous? Look at that glorious lint.
You nailed the focus, man.
Yeah,
look at that.
Yeah, worked that pretty well. 58 images worth.
Wow. About 58 images. 58. Amazing. Oh, come on. That's a showstopper.
So I switched my coin up. This one is a single image. This was just, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do a single image and not stack. In fact, I think Aaron had asked before when he thought about the threshold of using single images without stacking. Well, here's an example of a non-stacked image. This is one shot. We're looking at F11 with that Voigtlander 110 and just some lighting. And really it can be as simple as that. That seemed to work pretty well.
Oh, you nailed it. But still, the bellows, right? To get the
magnification. Yeah. The bellows were racked out about halfway.
Wow. That's I think that's my favorite image from the whole session. That's beautiful, man.
Thanks, man.
Wow.
Looks pretty good for being around since 1957, right? Right. Wear marks on the Liberty there. It's fun. It's a fun subject.
It's just wow. I love it. Well, that's the end of the slideshow, but that's the beginning of a really wonderful announcement that we have. And I'm going to put up a link. I'm going to put up a couple of links. The first one is if you guys want to take a closer look at any of the images that we have, I just put up a link for the Adobe Lightroom gallery, so you can go visit it in a browser and get a closer look. That's not streaming, right? And the next is I would like to announce that we're having a macro coin contest. Yes, you heard it
Nice.
here. You guys are the first to hear about it. We're launching it just for you. And I just shared that over on the handouts. This contest is open for a month. For people living in the USA, people who have a USA shipping address, we're going to offer a $500 gift certificate to this photo contest winner to shop on novoflexus.com.
Very nice.
So you have the opportunity to get some really nice gear, or part of some really nice gear, this way. So this link will take you to the Novoflex Macro Challenge, and I'm just going to pull up the screen real quick to show you guys what it looks like. So this is what it should look like when you get there. We're just going to ask you to drop in a photograph, tell us about your photograph, and you've got some other options to follow us on our social there too. We can't wait to see what you make. So please take our money. We want to see the best things that you can make. And we're so excited about this. It's going to be fun.
Very cool. That's amazing.
Christian, you want to help me judge?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. We can't participate, right? Dang it.
No. Our reward is
learning. Put my dime photo in there. All right, fine.
You know what? Sneak it in.
Sneak it in. Nobody will ever know.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm really looking forward to see what people are going to do, and don't be afraid to try multiple images. Don't just stick with one coin. Stick with 2 coins. Play with your lighting. Stick with one coin and 4 or 5 different lighting setups. I mean, it's just really the variations are endless.
Oh, for sure. Wow, we had so much ground to cover here. I mean,
That's a lot.
We had so much ground that we covered here. I get lost. And it was just so fun. I have some things that I wanted to share before we open up the Q&A to everybody. But while Christian and I are talking about some of the things that we observed and like our final learnings, to sort of wrap it up, some reflections on this, I want you guys to post all the questions that you didn't ask yet in the Q&A so we can get to them. The first thing you might ask us is which lenses work on bellows. So I'm gonna read what I wrote for myself as these notes here. You're gonna find the best results from a lens that says macro or micro in the name.
Yeah,
because it's designed for extreme resolutions. It'll focus beyond a certain point, perhaps 1:2, 1:1, perhaps 2:1. So those are your best bet lenses, ones that are specifically designed for macro, and it might also have the name micro, which Nikon does. Other lenses could work, and they should be tried, except super wide angle lenses. You're just never going to focus with them. So if you're looking at like 100 or 90 millimeter lenses, like a 70, a 60, a 50, that's the range that's really good to start with.
Yeah.
And as Martin pointed out to me, the 90 millimeter macro will give you about a 2.5 to 1 magnification at full bellows extension. So if you're looking for something that's more than twice life size, then 90 millimeters is just over 2.5 times. So I think that's a common question. I wanted to get that out there quick so you guys could think about whether you have a lens in your bag already that would work out or not. So that's quite possible.
Yeah. And if you're purchasing it, if you decide to purchase a macro lens, you don't need to buy the most expensive thing you've ever seen on the websites. Go for it if you can, but don't be afraid to try a 50 or 60 millimeter or Tamron or a Sigma or a brand that maybe not the same as your camera brand is very viable. Tamron makes amazing macro lenses. Voigtlander, I didn't even know they had a macro lens, to be honest. And I got to borrow that from our used department, and don't tell the used department. But there's a lot of options out there, and I was surprised, and I guess just by math, I should have known this, but I'm not great at math. When I put the 50 millimeter macro, the Zeiss, for the Sony, how much closer I knew I was going to get, but how much closer that really made that image. I mean, to the point where it was scary large, you're looking at the grooves and scratches in there. It was like, whoa, that's such detail, where the 110 gave me a little better working range. And I tend to, I think I appreciated that a little bit more for what I was trying to go for at the time. It really depends on what, what image you have in your mind. We did get a question, by the way, from Andrew. He was asking about looking at the different focus rail systems. Can you explain the differences and which one would be good to start with?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, here's. Feel free to start. I mean, I'm sure that we're going to have differing opinions on this. There's facts and there's opinions. So go ahead, give it a shot.
So I like to tell people, if you know you're going to get into a certain aspect of photography, whether it's macro or it's sports or whatever it happened to be, in this case, macro, of course, don't go super cheap just to get started. Okay. Do your research, kind of figure out what's going to fit for your applications. You don't want to get the cheapest filter to throw on the front of your lens. You definitely don't want the cheapest focus rail system to put underneath your camera. Of course, we were using Novoflex. Novoflex is a sponsor, and you really can't go wrong when you start at that level. The fine-tuned adjustments on the Novoflex are very tight together, so you get these really, really smooth movements back and forth, and it works in conjunction to a larger setup. So it's a modular environment in the Novoflex world, and that's great, right? So if you start off with the Castell Mini, and you can add another one later on, and you can get left to right and forward and back. There you go. There. Thank you, Matt. So you're not just stuck with a single entity. There are other brands out there that if you just don't want to go to the price point, okay, I understand. Nisi is a good intro level one, but they are not part of a larger system. That's a standalone rail. The grooves for the threads, if you will, for when you're focusing forward and back, are a little bit larger than the Novoflex, and so you probably will not have as fine-tuned control with that particular unit as you will with the Novoflex. So it really depends on how often you're going to use it, how much can you afford to invest into it, and how much further will you want to take that aspect of your photography. So.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo what you said. It comes down to the way I've always approached gear is this: buy what you can afford until it annoys you, or it fails.
That's a good way to put it. Yep.
Right. And I had a different focusing rail prior to this, and now I have a Castell Mini too. I understand that I'm able to do something as fine as what I did for this. Yeah. The one I owned previously wouldn't have cut it because I was turning the rail such a small amount that I wouldn't have been able to do that in a repeatable fashion. Right. And especially couldn't have done it vertically like I did. The Novoflex handled the vertically, like even though there was a lot of gravity pulling down on it. Yeah. So I'd say at the very least, if you don't mind screwing and unscrewing, Castell Mini 2 is fantastic. Mm-hmm. There's a version with the Castell L that has a quick release, a little coin-sized quick release that you can pull in and out. I would say if I were to start again, I'm probably going to upgrade soon to the Castell Q because it has the Arca compatible quick release built into it. And I never take the L bracket off of my camera. Yeah. And it's in the perfect orientation for my L bracket on my camera. So for me, that is the perfect choice for doing that. And the only one I have to go up above that is two ways, is to put two of them together and across, which there's kits for that, or for the Q mount XT, the XQ2, which is for much larger cameras where you need a longer focal length. And that's a topic we didn't talk about, which is putting telephoto lenses on. But I'm going to save that for another time. I did test it out, and it's really cool to put a telephoto lens on a bellows for lots of other reasons. But
interesting. Yeah, I did not even think about that. That's cool. Very nice.
Perhaps our next challenge.
And perhaps, yeah. Andrew, by the way, was definitely asking about the Novoflex line, not outside the Novoflex. So I read too much into that question. My bad.
Well, you know what? I understand. You have a broad range of experience working for B&H and as a photographer. So, like, I like that you understand practically everything that's out there, and I appreciate that. So,
Thanks, man.
Thanks for explaining that. What else do we have?
Gino asked about the Atomos. So, are you using an Atomos monitor?
Mount monitor?
Yeah, mount monitor.
I am using an Atomos. Let's see if I'm set up for this right now. I am. You know, it's funny because somebody asked about the other stuff too. So I have my Atomos down here.
There it is.
And I don't think I have it on, but I can turn it on. So I'm just using a Kupo arm on this, and it's actually screwed into the bottom of the TrioPod Pro 5. So I'm using the accessory mount there, which I really love.
Right.
Being able to screw things into that. And I'm just resting it here also because it's less shaky. And then this comes out of the camera into this, and I can focus off of this should I want to. But I am running the HDMI out again over there, so you can see it through there. And I don't have any extra lights on right now, but it's this is, and I'll just boom this camera over. You know, like, so this is my setup here. The Atomos mount, I would recommend, like, if you're doing this in the field, there's lots of ways to do this. There's a lot of beautiful video gear for cage to properly mount a camera on that. It's beyond the scope of this discussion, but it's pretty easy to look up, you know, like video cage for my camera model. And there's going to be connections for external monitors. Easy to find.
Yep. Easy.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got in the Q&A. Wow. So a couple of people said they couldn't download the depth of field table. The PDF is available there. I'll make sure that everybody has links that they need in the follow-up thank you email. Don't worry about that. We got this one done. Focus rail. Cool. We got all of that. Thank you, Martin, for helping us out with the chat. We appreciate you, man. All the links for the handouts. Cool. Wow. Oh, so we have some cool stuff coming up on the schedule, don't we, Christian?
We do. Well, we have to figure out what we want to photograph for our third challenge. What do you think we should do about that? It's going to happen.
I think we should ask the crowd.
All right.
We're going to crowdsource this one again. Not guaranteeing we'll pick one of the answers, but I want to.
Right.
Tell us in the chat, what object should we shoot for the next macro challenge?
Yeah.
And now that you see the pattern forming, it's probably going to be part of the next contest that we might have. So think about that too.
Interesting. Wow. With all this macro, kind of wish there was a, I don't know, like a week where we could just celebrate macro. I'm not sure what to do about that. Well, you know what we could do? We could have a macro week. What do you think?
Where's it going to be? When's it going to be?
Well, I think B&H should host it, and I think it should happen at the end of April. That sounds like a good time frame for me. And we'll give you guys, Yes. Oh, absolutely. You're definitely invited. Everyone here is invited. So yes, we are going to have a macro week hosted by B&H. We're going to bring in some really good speakers, people that really know their craft and not just learning like me, but that will awe and inspire you. We'll probably bring in some speakers that have the technical knowledge and artistic knowledge, kind of 50-50 there. And so if you're looking for a little bit more details about how to really get into the nitty gritty, tiny nooks and crannies of your macro photography, we have that option. And that's going to happen. And I believe we're going from the 20. Oh boy, did I forget it already? 26 to the. Well, I was on a roll there.
26th, somewhere around there. End of April.
There's a 26th through the 29th.
There we go.
Oh boy. You would think I'd know the stuff by now. So we'll make sure everyone on this webinar will get an invite to that as well.
Yep. And if you're already signed up for B&H's announcements, you'll definitely get it. If you've indicated you're interested in macro, I assume. But the Novoflex will make sure that we send out an announcement letting you guys know too, because many of the people you know and love that we work with and work with Novoflex will be participating in this also.
That's true.
All right. So I see one suggestion so far. So we got 2 suggestions. That's great. I saw a question also about whether this is being recorded. Yep, this is being recorded. You'll get a link to the replay. No worries, no problems.
Extreme macro, insects or sand. I can see that.
Yes.
Circuit board. Martin says circuit board.
Yeah.
That looks like a little city when you get that kind of extreme macro, wouldn't it?
It does.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of want to go organic though. I feel like we haven't touched organic. We have a couple of metal fork, metal coin. I don't know.
Mold.
Yeah. There's some phenomenal mold macro photographers out there. Just some amazing, like Planet Earth, any of those series, you see some of those specials. I just jaw dropping, gorgeous. Someday we'll get to the video side of things. Someday.
Cigars. Oh, I'm
macro using the lens, baby.
Ooh,
that could be kind of fun.
Crazy talk. Cool. Crazy talk. I love it. The crazier, the better.
Right?
This is the folks that you get to the end of this, you realize by now that this wasn't a deeply technical presentation. This is 2 people exploring the topic of macro in many different ways by issuing each other challenges on how to do it. And you guys are along for the ride. You're helping us out. There is another side to our educational program here at Novoflex. Martin Grahl, the international sales manager of Novoflex, is presenting some deeply technical presentations about the gear. So if you have questions about bellows systems or how to configure them, we have some previous things that Martin and I have done here on this channel. You can go check them out. But our next webinar is likely to be a highly technical, how do you do stuff with bellows webinar. And we will be publishing that date soon, so you guys can sign up for it and come ask all of the questions you have about it, and we'll show you how it works. We really appreciate you being here and talking with us. Christian, I can't tell you how much fun I'm having being on this journey with you, man. This is great.
This has been a lot of fun, and it's really opened up my eyes. And I think I mentioned before, I love learning. And when I'm challenged and I'm not succeeding the way I wanted to, start figuring out in that moment when an image comes together, that makes it all worthwhile. So thank you very much for being my challenge buddy. Appreciate it.
It's a blast. I can't wait to see what we do next. This has been really fun. And thanks everybody for being along the ride with us. If you're catching this on the replay, join the live one next time. We're going to have some fun with that. And all I can say is, stay tuned. There's a lot more fun stuff coming down the pike, and we appreciate you.
Definitely do. Yeah. Until next time. All right, buddy.
All right. So
thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Take care.